They say room 13 has been sealed since 1799, but I have the only key. Every midnight, someone knocks. No one's ever seen who it is. The mirror inside doesn't reflect your body, only your soul. And if you break even a single rule, room 13 opens itself, and it never lets you out. Asterisk, the Old Talbott Tavern in Bardstown, Kentucky, is the kind of place that feels older than time itself. Its brickwork is cracked but proud, its windows permanently stained with the ghosts of forgotten storms. Tourists come for bourbon and ghost stories. Most don't know how real the latter are, and none of them know about room 13. That's where I come in. My name is Edgar Ward Hollis. I'm the night warden of this cursed place. But more specifically, I'm the assigned custodian of room 13. Yes, it exists and oh, you can't rent it. You won't even see it unless I let you. There's no mention of it on the registry. No key card. Just one rusted iron skeleton key that I keep padlocked inside a hollowed-out Bible behind the front desk. A joke? Not even close. That key hums at night. Cold metal. Warm evil. When I took this job 6 months ago, the owner, an old woman named Ms. May Holleran, slid me a brittle envelope during orientation. The paper was the color of old bones, and it smelled like scorched wood and cloves. Inside was a single sheet titled, Rules of Room 13, Read or Die. The rules: never unlock room 13 unless the clock strikes exactly 3:33 a.m. and someone knocks 3 times. Not one more, not one less. Never look into the mirror longer than 10 seconds. It doesn't show what you want, it shows what you're hiding. If you hear a lullaby coming from inside the room, leave the building immediately. Lock the tavern from outside and return after sunrise. Every Friday night, a man in a Confederate uniform will check in under the name General Knox. Give him room 12 and avoid eye contact. Do not talk to the girl if she appears outside the door of room 13. She's not lost. She's looking. If the doorknob begins to bleed, burn sage at all 4 corners of the hallway. If that fails, pray. Never sleep in the tavern after opening room 13. Not even for a second that I laughed when I read it. I don't laugh anymore. The first night, my first week was uneventful. Dust, silence, the odd tourist whispering about Jesse James and Abraham Lincoln haunting the place. Room 13 didn't even show up on the hallway map. Between rooms 12 and 14 was a solid, blank stone wall, but the wall felt wrong. If you walked past it slowly, your stomach dropped like you missed a step. I'd catch guests occasionally pausing there, pressing a hand to it, frowning. Odd spacing. They'd say, "You should keep walking," I'd reply, but on the 7th night, I heard it point 3 knocks. 3:33 a.m. exactly. I shot to the tavern's old grandfather clock. It chimed, the sound brittle, glassy. Dong. 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 I reached for the Bible instinctively. My hand trembled as I opened the hollow and removed the ancient key. It felt warm, like flesh. I walked toward the blank wall. The candle sconces on the walls flickered wildly as if a gust of wind had swept through. But the air was dead still. I placed the key into a tiny, almost invisible keyhole near the floor. Click. The wall breathed. Then it moved. Slowly, grinding stone parted like stage curtains to reveal a wooden door, blackened, warped by time, carved with deep claw marks. Above the handle, in faded red paint, was a word, stay. I didn't listen. I turned the knob and stepped inside. Inside room 13, the air was colder than ice but smelled like rotting meat and lavender. The floorboards were warped in the shape of footprints, as if something heavy had paced the room. For centuries, there was a bed, four-posted, dusty, and a mirror, massive, covering the entire wall across from the bed. It was wrapped in black cloth. A note lay on the nightstand, folded in thirds. I opened it carefully. It simply said, "Don't stay past 4 a.m. or you'll be trapped inside. RM, 1947." My mouth dried. I stepped closer to the mirror and removed the cloth. What I saw still haunts me. I didn't see myself. I saw myself, but with black eyes, smiling. Behind me stood the girl from rule #5, but she was barefoot. Her eyes were sunken. Her lips moved as if singing, but there was no sound. Her shadow was facing the wrong way. I turned around. In a one. I looked back into the mirror. She was closer. That's when I noticed the clock in the room ticking independently from mine. It read 3:57 a.m. I ran. Dialogue entry from the next day. Security report. Transcribed Edgar Hollis. I opened the room. Ms. Holleran. Which one, dear? Edgar, 13. Ms. Holleran. Sighs, then God help you. Did you see the girl, Edgar, in the mirror? She was smiling. Ms. Holleran. Then she saw you too. The aftermath. Since that night, room 13 opens by itself. Sometimes it's locked. Other times, it stands wide open. Tourists report hearing music from inside. One couple claimed they booked it online, but that's impossible. Room 13 hasn't existed digitally for decades. It wants to be found. Every night since, I follow the rules. I've updated them. There are new ones now. I write them in blood red ink on the tavern's hidden logbook. Rule 8. If the girl appears in your dreams, you must wake up immediately. Don't let her finish the song. Rule 9. If you ever see two room 13s, pick neither. Leave the tavern and burn your clothes. Rule 10. If you read these rules out loud, she hears you. The next time the girl sang, it was from under the floor. It had been 2 nights since I unlocked room 13. 2 nights since I saw her in the mirror. Since then, something had changed. In me, in the room, and in the tavern itself. Light bulbs popped without cause. The lobby clock reversed itself at midnight. And every night at 3:33 a.m., the hallway would fall unnaturally still, like the world was holding its breath that I hadn't gone back to the room. Not willingly, but she kept coming to me. Point 1. The floorboards, it started small. A creak beneath my feet. In the main hallway. Not the usual wood settling noise. No, this was breathing. Then came the lullaby. A soft, almost whispered melody seeping up between the planks. Like a child humming to herself in the dark. I froze. The words were unintelligible, but the tune was wrong. Discordant, like a music box warping underwater. My ears began to ring. Blood rushed to my head. I dropped my flashlight. Thunk. The second I blinked, the sound stopped, but the floor beneath me was wet. I knelt down. My fingertips touched something sticky. Blood. It was leaking from the seams in the wood. I backed away, but the blood followed me. Not in a puddle. No, it spelled something. Letters formed. K. N. O. C. K2. Old journals and forgotten warnings. Desperate, I returned to the locked basement archives. The Old Talbot kept every guest book, death record, and room ledger since the early 1800s. I needed answers. I found a tattered leather journal bound in rotted string. The name etched into the cover chilled me. Reginald Maddox, Warden of Room 13, 1945 to 1950. I flipped through page after page of frantic, handwritten notes. The girl calls herself Annabelle. Says she drowned in the tavern well in 1798. But the well was sealed in 1779. How? She told me to feed her the mirror. What does that mean? 3 knocks, 3 rules, 3 days. The father, the son, the girl. Room 13 never sleeps. It waits. The last entry was scribbled in something brown and flaking. She's beneath the floor now. And she's hungry. 3. The dead check-in that Friday. Rule number 4 came true at exactly 9:01 p.m. The front door creaked open. A tall man stepped inside. Thin, pale, dressed in a weathered Confederate officer's uniform, dusty epaulets and all. His face was drained of color, eyes like 2 dimes sunk in milk. He smelled like earth and decay. He approached the front desk without saying a word. I swallowed hard. He slid an ID across the counter. It read, name, General Augustus Knox, room requested. 12. No signature. No emotion, just a slow nod. I handed him the key. My fingers brushed his glove, and for a second, just 1 second, I saw trenches filled with screaming men, fire in the trees, blood spraying like rain. He turned and walked away. Point 4. The girl appears. Rule number 5. At 2:44 a.m., I saw her, standing outside. Room 13's door, barefoot, hair black and knotted like seaweed. Her nightgown was damp, stained at the hem. She wasn't crying. She wasn't angry. She was waiting. I remembered the rule. Do not talk to the girl if she appears outside the door of room 13. She's not lost. She's looking. I kept my distance. Her head twitched toward me like a puppet on broken strings. Her smile tore slowly across her face like paper ripping. She lifted one hand and knocked. Knock. 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 3:33 a.m. The wall shuddered. The door appeared. She tilted her head, stepped through it. The door slammed shut. I pissed myself. Point 5. Mirror madness. I checked room 14's CCTV feed later that morning. The mirror in room 13 had somehow connected to the other rooms. Every screen flickered, every reflection twisted. Guests were smiling when they weren't. Point 1 man. Room 11 looked directly into the bathroom mirror and saw the girl holding a noose behind him. He passed out cold. The next day, he checked out, muttering, "She wants me to hang with her." 6. Breaking the chain. It was done. I packed my bag. Left a note for Ms. Holleran. Burned the key. Or tried to. The flame died every time it touched the metal. I threw it in the well behind the tavern. But that night, the key was back, sitting on my pillow, covered in red thread. The kind used to bind the dead. A whisper came from the wall. "Knock knock, Ward. Let me in." 7. The final warning. MS. Holleran confronted me in the morning. "Did you break Rule 1? She asked quietly. "I didn't invite her," I whispered. "You opened the door, didn't you?" "I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice," she screamed, slamming her cane into the counter. "That door feeds on permission. Every knock is an invitation. Every glance into the mirror is a feast for her." Then she leaned close and whispered, "And if she sings to you 3 nights in a row, she owns your voice forever." My throat clenched and I hadn't realized it until then. But I couldn't speak anymore. Point 8. New rules appear when I return to the hallway. The rules posted outside room 13 had changed. More had appeared, carved into the wallpaper itself like deep claw gouges. New additions. If your reflection winks at you, look away immediately. Do not let the guests in room 12 and room 14 ever meet. They are the same person at different times. If she asks you what year it is, lie. Always. And finally, Rule 14. Burned into the baseboard in black char. The warden never leaves. You're not guarding her in, she's guarding the rest of the world from you. Closing moments. That night, at exactly 3:33 a.m., the door opened without a knock, and this time, she stepped into the hallway, and every mirror in the building shattered. Some rooms are built with wood and stone. Others are built with murder and mourning. Room 13 was not constructed. Asterisk, it was birthed from a broken oath and buried bones. 1. The breaking point. After the mirrors shattered, the entire tavern changed. It was as if a veil had lifted. The floral wallpaper of the hallways peeled back overnight, revealing a grotesque layer of carved bone beneath. The paintings twisted on their canvases. Portraits of Civil War generals now bled from their eyes, and one of them winked at me. Room 13's door no longer disappeared. It was always visible now, wide open, beckoning like the mouth of a cave. Shadows moved within it, even when there was no light. And every night, someone new would check in, except they weren't on the guest book. And they never left. Point 2. The general returns on Friday at 9:01 p.m. sharp. General Knox returned. Same uniform, same dead face. Only this time, he spoke. "The pact is breaking," he rasped, breath like dry ice. "We sealed it with fire, salt, and soul. Now you've undone it." I stood frozen. "What pact?" I asked. "The room must remain closed. That was the deal. You've reopened the door. You've let her walk the halls. Who is she?" He looked me in the eye, and for the first time, I saw fear. She was the girl sacrificed to buy this land from death itself. Then he handed me something heavy and cold. A bullet. Not any bullet. It had a name carved into it. Mine. Point 3. The secret room. MS. Holleran finally told me the truth. She brought me into her private chamber, a locked cellar below the kitchen that even the old blueprints didn't show. Inside were old maps, newspaper clippings, bones in jars, and a massive oil painting covered in a cloth. She unveiled it. It was a portrait of the original Talbott family. Father, mother, 3 children. In the center, a pale little girl in a white dress. No eyes. Annabelle. In 1798, she began. The tavern was about to go bankrupt. The land was cursed. Crops failed. Livestock were stillborn. Travelers died in their sleep. In desperation, the owner, Elias Talbott, struck a deal with something ancient. Not quite demon, not quite ghost. It offered prosperity in exchange for a sacrifice. Elias chose his daughter. They drowned her in the tavern's well. At midnight, dressed her in a wedding gown soaked in goat's blood. Her scream echoed across the hills. Her eyes were sewn shut. Her soul was bound to the room constructed above the site of the well. Room 13. The town prospered. The tavern thrived. But every generation, a new warden had to take the key. A new watcher had to keep her locked away. Point 4. The ritual I begged. To undo it, put her back. To silence the room. Ms. Holleran told me there was a way, a ritual performed only once before. You must enter room 13 with 3 items, she said. A piece of the original sacrifice, a blood-bound bullet, and a mirror that's never shown your face. I had 2. The bullet with my name. The original linen dress. Used in the sacrifice, Ms. Holleran kept it preserved in salt. But the mirror? It had to come from the abandoned church across the field, St. Gideon's, long burned down, where the townsfolk once worshipped and later hanged the man who led the ritual. Point 5. The mirror mission at 2 a.m. I broke into the church ruins. Vines choked the stone. The bell tower was nothing but a jagged spear. But deep in the undercroft, I found it. A black mirror, still intact, never used. Wrapped in chains made of rosaries. I touched it. A hand grabbed my wrist from within the glass. Girls whisper, "Don't bring me back. Let me out. Let me out." I yanked free and ran. But the mirror followed me home. I strapped it to my back and returned to room 13 just before 3:33 a.m. Point 6. Entering the room. Again, the air in room 13 was heavier now, like swimming. Through ashes, the furniture had grown long limbs, chairs bent into kneeling positions. The bed pulsed alive. The mirror across the wall shattered at my presence, and something crawled out of the cracks. Her, Annabelle, but not as a child. Something ancient, wearing a body like a dress made of human skin. Her mouth was sewn shut, but her eyes bled black. She hovered a few inches above the ground. "You came to finish it," she rasped into my head. "You want to seal me in again. But the room is mine now." She raised one hand, and the walls bled. Point 7. The showdown. I began the ritual. I set the mirror in front of her, placed the bullet in my palm, wrapped the dress around the foot of the bed. The room shook. The floor cracked. Voices screamed from the walls in a dozen languages. She reached for me. Her fingers lengthened, splitting into thorns. I raised the mirror. "See yourself," I screamed. And for the first time, she recoiled. The black mirror showed her real form. A writhing knot of infants' faces, sewn together by veins. A spinning crown of jawbones. A skeletal girl cradled in blood. She shrieked. I pressed the bullet to the center of her chest and whispered, "Back to the well." 8. Silence. The room exploded in light. Then, darkness. I woke outside. The door to room 13 had vanished. The hallway was brick again. Normal. The rules were gone. The air was still. Point 9. One last knock. It's been quiet for 3 weeks now. No knocks. No guests disappearing. No whispers from the floorboards. But tonight, at exactly 3:33 a.m., a single knock echoed from behind the old stone wall. Just one dot, and scrawled across the guest book in a child's handwriting was one line. "You broke the mirror, but you looked too long." They thought they were locking her in. But room 13 wasn't a prison. It was a womb. And last night, it gave birth. Point 1. One knock means she's watching. That single knock still echoes in my bones. Every night since the ritual, I've tried to convince myself it was a residual echo, a memory, a sound lodged in the old stone like lightning trapped in a bottle. But then came the guest. He checked in under a false name, Elias. He didn't speak, didn't blink. When I handed him the key to room 8, he grabbed my wrist with an unnatural grip and whispered, "You should have buried the mirror in your own chest." That night, room 13 reappeared. No knock, no summoning. It simply returned, on its own. But now it didn't look like a room. It looked like a mouth. Point 2. The return of the rules came back, written in chalk on the ceiling of the lobby. This time, they weren't numbered, they were carved in blood. And they were directed at me. "You failed the binding. She is free now. The tavern is the first to fall. You are the last warden." I tried to leave, packed my bag, got to the edge of Bardstown, but every road curved back toward the tavern. Even when I turned off GPS, even when I walked, it won't let me leave. And at midnight, I received a letter under my door. The paper was fresh, crisp, but the date on it read, July 11th, 1799. Inside, "Dear Mr. Hollis, you think you ended something. You were simply the last nail in the coffin. Room 13 was never a location. It was a contract. And now, she has a body. Sincerely, Elias Talbot. 3. The disappearances begin. It started with room 3 at the guest. A honeymooner named Lisa Jensen was seen entering at 9:30 p.m. Surveillance footage confirmed she never came out. When I opened the door the next morning, the room was emptied, no furniture, no windows, just a single child's handprint on the wall, upside down, and a puddle of bathwater with long black strands of hair. The next night, room 7 vanished. Its door was there, but when I opened it, I saw a hallway of mirrors, each showing a version of myself hanging from a noose, eyes wide and lips mouthing, "She's behind you." The guests screamed and checked out. Those who stayed, gone. Point 4. I found the mirror again buried in my closet, wrapped in linen and chains, but the linen was soaked in milk. Rotten. Mother's milk. I tried smashing it, but this time, it bled. The mirror pulsed like a heart. I saw things in it. Visions. A crumbling church with flesh instead of pews. A mirror womb birthing faceless children. Annabelle, towering and skeletal, cradling a bundle of rags. "My son," she whispered. "Your soul, his skin." Then I saw my own body inside the mirror, tied to a chair, mouth sewn shut. That version of me looked up and screamed, but no sound came. Point 5. The basement door opens. There's a door in the basement. I was never allowed to open. MS. Holleran once told me it was sealed by the family line, but now it stood open, wide, and the air flowing out of it was freezing, scented with rosemary, blood, and the faint sound of a rattle. I descended the stairs. Each step echoed louder than the last until I felt like I was walking inside a bell tower made of bone. The bottom, a crib, rocking. Inside was me. Not just a baby that looked like me. It was me. Down to the birthmark on the chest and the tooth scar on the lip, and written above the crib in soot, "You were born from room 13. Not into it." 6. Bloodline revelation. MS. Holleran confessed. "The rest. You are a descendant of the Talbot bloodline," she said. "You're not the warden. You're the key. That's why I called to you." "Why now?" "Because you completed the cycle. You let her back in. And she used your voice, your blood, your fear to take shape." She handed me an old photograph. 1890. A man holding a baby in front of the tavern. Written on the back, Elias Talbot with his great-grandson, Edgar. I was the baby. The room had been waiting centuries. For me. Point 7. The final rule appears that night. One final rule appeared, burned, into the front desk. Not written, branded. If the warden ever enters the room of their own free will, the door opens forever. At exactly 3:33 a.m., I walked toward room 13. This time, no girl, no knock, just silence. But the door was open. Inside, the furniture had arranged itself into a circle. The mirror was floating, and at the center was a cradle. A baby's cry echoed. From within. Point 8. I walked in not because I had to, because I wanted to. I needed to end this. Burn it. Die with it if necessary. The moment my foot crossed the threshold, everything around me vanished. Room. Tavern. Just void. And in front of me, the girl, Annabelle. But now she was massive. Her eyes were galaxies, and her body was stitched together. From timelines, she spoke in every voice I'd ever heard, including mine. "You were the missing piece, Edgar. You weren't meant to watch the room. You were meant to become it." Suddenly, I was in the crib, wailing, and I saw her lift me, cradle me, then climb inside me. Point 9. Becoming room 13. I awoke in a different version of the tavern. Older, rotting, empty. The paint peeled in time with my heartbeat. Mirrors lined the walls, and every one of them showed me sitting behind the front desk, smiling, hollow-eyed. I walked to the hallway. Every door was room 13. Numbers. Names. Just knock, knock, knock. Every time I blinked, a new one opened, and from behind them, faces stared out. All me. All screaming. Point 10. The final truth I understand now. Room 13 was never a room. It was a breach. A wound in the skin of reality. A thing stitched shut by sacrifice and lies, kept still only by blood willing to bleed. And I was the clot. I was never meant to survive. But I disobeyed the final rule. I entered willingly. I let her back into the world. Now room 13 is everywhere. It's on your street. In your building. It's the room behind the mirror. If you hear 3 knocks at 3:33 a.m., do not answer. Don't look in the mirror. Don't say her name. Don't read the rules aloud, because now you're the warden. I thought room 13 was a door I was keeping closed, but it was a doorway into me. Now the room is open, and the world is on the other side. Asterisk if you hear a knock at 3:33 a.m., you better pray you're not next. Asterisk the air doesn't move in room 13 anymore. It trembles. Everything in this place feels alive now. The walls pulse faintly like lungs struggling to breathe. The floorboards throb beneath your feet like an irregular heartbeat. The chandeliers sway even without wind, casting shadows that walk on their own. The room has changed. Or maybe I have theirs. A term for this in occult circles, soul substitution. When something replaces you from the inside out. Quietly, gradually, like rot inside an apple. And I think that's what's happening to me. Point 1. The cracks in the world. The day after I re-entered room 13, I noticed the first crack. It wasn't in the wall. It was in the sky. Clouds had stopped moving. Birds flew in circles overhead, repeating their flight paths like a corrupted video loop. And the sun didn't rise. It hung there, just beneath the horizon. A blood-red eye, never blinking. I stepped outside the tavern and found the town frozen. Bardstown had become a diorama, silent, paused. A thin mist blanketed everything, and in it, I could hear whispers. Dozens, hundreds. They all sounded like me. Point 2. The book that wrote itself back in my office. The Bible I kept the room 13 key in had split open. Pages spilled across the floor. But they were no longer scripture. They were my journals. Pages and pages written in my handwriting, describing events that hadn't happened yet. 3:33 a.m. Knock. 3 times. No door needed. 3:44 a.m. Reflection walks out of the mirror. Leaves body behind. 3:59 a.m. Final rule appears. It's not a warning. It's a prophecy. And on the last page, you are no longer the warden. You are now the room. 3. The reflection rebellion. That night, I walked past a mirror in the hallway, and my reflection didn't move. It just stood there, staring at me. Then it smiled and spoke. You've been replaced, Edgar. I ran back to the lobby. Every mirror in the building had changed. In each one, my reflection moved. Differently, some laughed. Some screamed. One stared with pitch-black eyes and whispered, "We are the rooms now. You're just the doorway." 4. The inversion at 3:33 a.m. I tried to burn the tavern down. I soaked everything in gasoline. Struck the match. Nothing caught. The fire fizzled like wet cloth. But when I looked outside, the tavern had burned. Not in this reality. In a reflected version of it. Visible only through the windows. As if this world had become a shadow of the real one. The tavern that burned was empty, except for one room, still intact. Room 13.5. The Hall of Infinite Rooms. A mess. Halloran was waiting for me at the bottom of the cellar stairs. Only it wasn't her. Her face had twisted backward. Her eyes glowed from inside her throat. And she wasn't breathing air. She was breathing names. Each name she exhaled echoed like thunder. And one of them was mine. She pointed behind her to a new hallway that had never existed before. Dozens of doors. Each numbered 13. Each one opening into another version of the tavern. Each one had a different warden. Each warden was me. Point 6. The mother. Mirror. I found her again. Annabelle. Only she wasn't a child anymore. She sat in a throne made of cribs, her eyes deep mirrors reflecting every mistake I'd ever made. She spoke in the voice of my mother. You were born into the world, but you were meant to be the room. You think doors are made of wood and hinges? No, Edgar. Doors are made of choices. She raised her hand, and every door in the hall opened at once. Point 7. The guests who never checked out, they came spilling out. Hundreds of them. Guests from every era, 1700s, 1800s, 2000s, all of them pale, silent, and blind. All of them moving as if they had one shared heartbeat. Some had no mouths. Some had too many. Each one walked past me and whispered the same thing. You let her out. You let us out. And then they vanished into the mist. Each one becoming a mirror. A crack in reality. A new room, 13.8. The warden's curse. There is no more tavern. There is no more Kentucky. There is only room 13 now. I don't eat. I don't sleep. I sit behind a desk that doesn't exist. In a building that can appear anywhere. Sometimes I wake up in a gas station restroom in Nevada. Other Times, in an abandoned subway terminal in Chicago, wherever the mirror lands. I follow, because I am the room now, and I wait for the next knock. Point 9. One final rule. There is one last rule that has now burned itself onto my skin, carved deep into my chest like a brand. Rule infinity. If you stare into the room too long, it starts to stare back. I no longer remember my last name, or my real face, that I see her in my dreams, that I see myself in hers, that I am the guest, the warden, the room, the key, the door, the lock, the thing beneath the bed. Point 10. Message to you, reader/viewer, if you're hearing this. If you're reading this, if a room shows up on your booking with no number, if your mirror fogs up and shows words instead of reflections, if a girl knocks 3 times at 3:33 a.m. and asks to be let in, don't. You won't save her. You'll birth her again, because Room 13 doesn't want to be forgotten. It wants to be remembered. Fire closing cinematic line. Some places are haunted by ghosts. Room 13 is haunted by you, because once you enter, the room never leaves.